Hey, this is Tasha McCarter coming to you from my apartment in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am very excited to be working with aprofessionalafrica.com as a contributor. During this video, I'd like to talk about access to reliable power. I'll start with an overview of the challenge, share some of the details about how the power grid works, and end with key growth opportunity. I am so honored to be in your presence and hope that you stick with me through the rest of this video. So let's start with some details that we all know. Demand for power in Africa is growing. The population on the African continent is among the fastest growing and youngest in the world. 1 out of every 2 people added to the world population between today and 2040 will be of African descent, and the continent is expected to become the world's most populous region by 2023. And by 2040, the African continent will have around 2 billion citizens. So it goes without saying that growing populations mean rapid growth in energy demand for industrial production, cooling, and mobility. Electricity demand in Africa today totals almost 700 trillion watt-hours, with North African economies and South Africa accounting for more than 70% of this total. However, the fastest and largest growth is expected to take place in sub-Saharan Africa, causing demand to more than double by 2040, reaching the value of 1,600 trillion watt-hours. Friends, here's the problem. With an exception of Northern Africa and Kenya, access to reliable power on the continent is extremely low and could go even lower if the power delivery system is not improved. West Africa's electricity access rate is 47%. Southern Africa is around 43%, Central Africa 25%, and East Africa is 23%. In comparison, China's access is 100%. India's access rate in 2016 reached 82%, and Brazil has an access rate of 97%. But why is access so low? According to Hendrik Milan, partner and CEO at Frost Sullivan Africa, and I quote, "There is a tremendous infrastructure shortage in Africa, not just from a generation perspective, but also from a transmission and distribution perspective. Generation is only a relatively small part of the problem. To get the power from one side of the country to the other side, typically many grids are not connected and the quality is not particularly good. So it's always a balancing act between making sure the generation investment is good, but also that the transmission and distribution investment is good." Before I go any further, let's take a look at a quick video of how the grid works.
The electrical grid. The electric grid is the network through which power is generated, transmitted, and distributed to consumers. The electric grid is broadly made up of 3 main components: generation, transmission or distribution, and consumption. There are several key pieces of infrastructure that are built to support the delivery of electricity to consumers. It is comprised of these components: generating plants, where electricity is produced; transmission lines, infrastructure that allows electricity to be transported over long distances; substations, where electricity voltage is increased or decreased; transformers, the mechanisms that actually increase or decrease the electricity voltage; distribution lines, infrastructure similar to transmission lines but for lower voltages of electricity. The grid was created to solve the problem of geographic separation between electricity production and consumption. Electricity is often produced far from where it is used, so infrastructure needs to be built to connect the two. Prior to the invention of the modern grid, electricity producers each developed their own distribution systems for delivering electricity to customers. This system was costly and often led to underused infrastructure and wasted electricity. The modern grid was invented to allow various producers to share infrastructure for production and distribution, which led to increased reliability and lower costs. So how exactly does the grid work? After electricity is generated, the voltage is stepped up at a substation. This voltage increase allows electricity to travel long distances while minimizing the amount of electricity lost. The electricity then travels along transmission lines, either overhead or underground. Once it reaches its destination, another substation steps the voltage down to a level suitable for distribution lines that deliver electricity to consumers. The electrical grid provides electricity to various consumers with varying needs. For instance, industrial consumers are large facilities like manufacturing plants. Commercial consumers are office buildings or high-rise towers, and residential consumers are individual homes. The electrical grid is one of the most important inventions in our modern world. The centralized nature of the grid has made it an ideal structure for large-scale electricity production, so that's the electrical grid.
Great video. Now recall before watching the video I mentioned that both Northern Africa and Kenya were exceptions when it came to low access to power. As a matter of fact, in 2019, Kenya reached 75% access to power. However, as recently as 2012, Kenya's access rate was just 25%. In the years since, Kenya has turned its power sector upside down and inside out, transforming its electricity framework in terms of regulatory policy and investment, and strategically building up both generation capacity and transmission infrastructure. Today, Kenya is one of the world's greatest power success stories. How did Kenya close the gap from 25% access in 2012 to 75% access in 2019? In addition to the radical shift in governance, they focused on key strategies that leveraged technology, including microgrids, substation design, power quality, and smart grid applications. I can't wait to share more on these topics in future videos. My next video will talk about microgrids and renewable power and energy storage. Until then, be sure to check out aprofessionalafrica.com for other interesting videos. Have a wonderful week and be blessed.
Visit aprofessionalafrica.com today to receive your certification from MindEdge.